This week, rumors began to swirl that a main roster call-up for Aleister Black was coming sooner rather than later. Those rumors were reinforced yesterday, and from an odd set of NXT tapings on Wednesday. It would make sense, though. Barring a rematch against Tommaso Ciampa, there isn't much left for the former NXT champion to do on the yellow brand. He's been ready for the main roster for some time. This is, however, a time of trepidation. Fans of NXT standard-bearers have known for a long time now that can't-miss superstars from Full Sail have been ruined beyond comprehension. With the exception of Drew McIntyre, this year's call-ups, in particular, have been astoundingly badly handled. Just look at the Authors of Pain. Nevertheless, Aleister Black might have a better chance than others because of his unique look, character, and skill at dramatic acting. For all his ability, though, it needs to be channeled properly if he's to be a success. If Aleister Black shows up on Raw or, preferably, SmackDown, soon, he'll need to have the right feud to get started hot. Here are some that would heat him up out of the gate. With the exception of one night, the feud between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose hasn't gone as splendidly as fans were hoping for. Instead of being a truly unhinged heel, Dean Ambrose has been rather generic so far, running down the fans as every generic heel in WWE does. However, there's a lot more room to turn it around. Dean Ambrose may be the favorite to walk out of TLC as the Intercontinental Champion, and if certain rumors about Rollins are true, the Architect won't get his title back. How about Aleister Black to challenge Ambrose on the way to WrestleMania, then? A truly unhinged Ambrose against a stoic character like Black would be a great feud for the Intercontinental Championship heading into MetLife Stadium. It really is hard to see John Cena these days, as he's only shown up a handful of times this year. He's said to return soon, though, to some house shows and perhaps a television show or two. It's unlikely that he won't be around for WrestleMania 35. Especially given its placement in the New York metro area this coming year. After having been squashed by The Undertaker last year, might Cena be looking to prove that he isn't over the hill and that he still has it this year? If so, Aleister Black would be an interesting challenger. The contrast in their characters would make for something to see heading into the show of shows. Ultimately, Aleister Black would need to win in what would be a star-making match on wrestling's biggest stage. A win over Cena isn't what it once would have been, but it would set Black on the right track. Samoa Joe has settled into his role of being the guy to put over the true top guys and make them look good. Despite all the big losses he's taken, Joe still brings authenticity to everything he does, and if the idea is to take a slower, but still meaningful approach with Black's push, he would be the perfect antagonist. The mind games between the two former NXT champions would be very entertaining. If there's one person that Joe's ripping promos wouldn't be able to demoralize, it would be Aleister Black. The segments alone would have a tremendous potential to steal every show they're put on. Not to mention, the matches would be intense, with great acting on both sides to amp up the ring work itself. Seeing the massive Samoa Joe get down to the Black Mass would be a sight all on its own. Randy Orton has been a reinvigorated performer since his heel turn in the summer. Far from the typical generic heel that infests the main roster, he's been a sadistic psychopath for months, with some of the most memorable segments of the year torturing Jeff Hardy. Rey Mysterio has been the latest victim of his ruthless rampage, which he's doing, he says, because he wants to tear down all of the idols of the fans. What about a clash with a man who doesn't want to be an idol, then? Aleister Black's mix of stoicism and energetic fire would be the perfect antithesis to Randy Orton's malicious character. If there's anyone prepared for this version of Orton and the ghastly things he does, it's Aleister Black. This could be a potentially explosive feud in SmackDown's mid-card which could last for months to come. Only now does Shinsuke Nakamura look like he's emerging from a period of irrelevance despite his being United States champion. A feud with Rusev, however, just feels underwhelming compared to Randy Orton vs Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe vs Jeff Hardy. Again, the title feels like the least important part of the mid-card division on SmackDown. There badly needs to be an intense feud for it, and what better way to bring the United States Championship back to relevance than with the newly debuted Aleister Black gunning for it? A clash between the two former NXT champions could also be interesting in the ring, as both employ strike-heavy styles. The mind games between the two of them would also be a fun sight to see. Nakamura's eccentric mannerisms clashing with Aleister Black's stoic demeanor would make for a fun and interesting contrast. If WWE really wanted to make Aleister Black a big deal from the moment he arrived, how about him unexpectedly winning the Royal Rumble on his debut and then, after a long tease, challenging Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania? The new Daniel Bryan may be champion, but he's already shown a lot of signs of delusion and bizarre behavior. Aleister Black would be the perfect antithesis to this kind of character. After all, he just did it to great success with Johnny Gargano. Aleister Black can be the spider called Truth to challenge the delusional WWE champion on the biggest stage. Given that AJ Styles is unlikely to get the title back, there are no obvious challengers for Daniel Bryan at the moment. It would be out of the box for WWE to debut someone to that much fanfare, but it could be great. It looked like The Undertaker was on better ground in his matches with John Cena and Rusev, but then he had his matches with Triple H and DX and we were brought back to reality. It's getting embarrassing to watch The Undertaker continue to wrestle, and it really is time for him to ride into the sunset, both for his own sake and for the sake of the current talent. There may be no better guy to retire him than Aleister Black. Both have similar dark auras, and a victory over The Undertaker in his debut feud would instantly make Aleister Black a made man. The ring work wouldn't be anything special, but the atmosphere could make up for it. Undertaker could pass the torch to Black to continue the legacy of his kind of character, and it would be in good hands.